There are hundreds of trade stands and growers at Chelsea Flower Show. Great hunting ground for products and plants. In this video, I tracked down some of the best finds. This is the Italian terrace stand. They make these beautiful pots. And we use them quite a lot. We used that one, they designed that one with us for one of the Chelsea gardens we did, the M&G garden, and it's still one of my favourites, but it's the finish of these pots that's so beautiful. And Louise always sets up their stands really beautifully. They've got this sort of corrugated iron, lovely little touches, beautifully planted, and I just think every time I look at these pots, I've known them for many years, but you never get bored of them. They're something you put in your garden and you just love forever. I obviously love using baseless pots, and so Louise actually cuts out the bases of any of these pots for me, and that way you don't have to feed and water the plants, they just stand on their own 2 feet. Obviously there are many different trade stands here at Chelsea, and this is one which is pretty eye-catching. It's by Plank Bridge, and they make the shepherd's huts and they make the stoves, and it really does give you a feel for outdoor living, indoor, outdoor. Wonderful stove there, beautiful design running up through the pergola, so it really is incorporated into the space. And then there's the hot tub or cold tub, whichever way you fancy it there. And I love the hanging trough with the ferns underneath. The whole thing's beautifully decorated, and I think this would be a wonderful rural idyll for a few weeks in the summer. You could even live in it full time. I really love your fabrics, and what I love about them is that they hardly fade. They're made totally of recycled plastic bottles. They can live outside all year round in the British climate and they still look perfect. To me, they are brilliant, and you've just made me some wonderful sofa cushions to go on my outdoor sofas, and I'm so thrilled.
How are they fitting? They're good.
They're fitting very well. Can you just tell us how you got this? I understand you're on holiday with your husband Barney.
Yes.
And you saw a fisherman with a plastic bottle he'd picked up from the sea, and this was in...
So this was about 14 years ago.
Yes.
And we found something. So basically we're sitting by the water.
Yes.
And all this flotsam and jetsam was coming in, and obviously what part of that was a plastic bottle, or there are many actually.
Yes.
And simultaneously at the same time there was a fisherman who had unravelled using a Stanley knife the scratchy hard plastic into a long strip and had simply heat welded each end. And seeing basically a formed plastic suddenly become something that was fluid and long, however scratchy and impossible. I mean, you'd never use it as an actual yarn, but it made this thing, it made us realise that we should look into making something out of plastic bottles and seeing whether we could recycle this polyester rather than trying to make new polyester all the time. So
right.
The reason we're in love with plastic is because it is a wonder material. And that was the beginning of our journey, and something of a challenge, I must be honest.
And when I actually feel any of your cloths, and all these are made from it, and you say to someone, this is made from plastic bottles, they look at you as though you are bonkers.
I know.
Because you cannot believe it, because it's such a leap. But you've got some displays here.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you what's happening here. First of all, we have a plastic bottle.
Yeah.
This is a PET plastic, and the lid is actually a polypropylene. So the first thing we have to do is take off this polypropylene. That then separates, and we've now got a completely virgin, pure PET plastic. And from that again, we then sort it by colour, and we wash them, and then we shred them into these chips, plastic chips.
Yes.
And that is effectively our raw ingredient. From there, we then heat them,
Yes.
and then we then turn it into a liquid form, and then we make very long filaments. And the reason that's important is because we're trying to get really good tensile strength and also to reduce the shedding, because obviously there's a lot of awareness now about microplastics. We then wash and stretch this hard plastic filament and start to blow air into it and comb it until it becomes this. And at this point, we now have effectively something that's behaving and looking like wool.
Wow.
And as soon as it becomes this wool-like feel, we can then start to spin it
Yes.
into a yarn and dye it using non-toxic dyes with no formaldehyde or any nasty fixes. And then we basically have a yarn. And the second you have a yarn, you can then make it into anything you want to.
So I could leave this outside, the dog could lie on it
Absolutely.
all year round and wash it, and it would still be perfect.
Exactly.
It wouldn't rot. It's
So
fabulous.
it washes, it does, there's a very good UV stability. And then at the end of its life, when we do fall out of love with things, it can go straight into the recycling bin and be recycled as if it was a plastic bottle.
And I look at your range here, and I have just ordered 2 of those cushions to go on my
Wonderful.
sofa.
Excellent
that you've
choice.
done, yes. And we've had your throws. I love your big sort of floor cushions. So you've got new ideas in the pipeline.
Lots of them. It's really exciting because we're not limited. We've got parasols and all sorts of hammocks and wonderful things coming later in the year.
Whoa,
and
parasols.
Yes,
Oh, that
more
would be
garden,
brilliant.
wonderful
Yeah.
garden,
Yes.
specific material too. But again, anything can be used indoors and outdoors.
So your stand, as ever, the roses look amazing, really, really point of perfection, aren't they? Peak of perfection.
Thank you.
And by us are 2 of your new ones,
Yes.
2 new ones this year. Bring Me Sunshine. Tell me the story behind the naming. Was it you that chose the name?
It was me, yes.
And why did you choose the name?
Well, obviously, the colour suits the rose, sunshine colour, but
Yes.
it's Morecambe and Wise was my father's favourite comedians, and we used to watch it together as children, and I can remember him literally belly laughing,
Yes.
Morecambe and Wise. So they were his favourite, and they're my favourites too, so I thought, well, what a great honour to him, and also what an appropriate name for a beautiful sunshine rose like this.
And is it disease resistant? Is it a
Yeah.
prolific flower?
Yeah.
How long would it flower in my garden for?
It will repeat flower from sort of the second week of June, and it will probably still be in flower in some form in October before
That's
the
good.
frosts come.
And I can't imagine who you've named this rose after. Elizabeth.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Yeah, well, obviously it's her platinum jubilee, and again, my father was a massive royalist and a fan of the royal family, and he was lucky enough to meet the Queen on his 90th birthday here at Chelsea. So to call her Rose Elizabeth really is for him too, as well as for the Queen herself. And it's just a beautiful shade of pink, a beautiful fragrance, and
It's got a very matte foliage, hasn't it? A
Yeah.
nice matte foliage, a natural looking flower.
I'm glad you spotted that, because we're absolutely delighted with that. We've always aimed that as close to an old rose foliage as we've probably achieved.
Yeah.
And I think it's stunning.
And how high does Elizabeth grow?
Elizabeth will get to about 4 feet.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a good size.
Yeah,
a good size.
absolutely.
Lovely. Did old David, did he have a hand in breeding these 2, do you think?
Almost certainly, yes. He was still, 10 years ago, still actively involved in thinking about the breeding, so he would certainly have approved the cross, if not actually chosen it himself.
Right.
So, yeah, he was, yeah.
And then Carl Bennett, your
That's right.
rose breeder who worked with him, is still
Yeah.
doing all this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's had a big hand in these as well.
Yeah.
And then the awful question of all your roses, I mean, I don't know how many there are altogether, which do you think is the outstanding, most popular, most disease-resistant rose?
Well, I can certainly go for the most popular and probably the most famous, one of the most famous of our roses, which is Gertrude Jekyll. The big thing about Gertie, as we call her, is her fragrance. It's phenomenal fragrance, and that is such an important part of the rose.
Yes.
And it's a striking colour, and it's been around forever, and you can grow it as a climber if you want to. It makes a fantastic climber against a nice warm wall, and it's also a super shrub. So
And it's a wonderful colour, isn't it? I
great
love
colour.
the colour.
Yeah.
This is your first year.
That's right. First time at Chelsea.
And you're Heinrich Braun from Denmark.
Yes,
And you have grown all yourself these sculptural willows.
that's right.
So you take the cuttings and you root them initially.
But that's right. We take the cuttings in winter. We grade into length.
Yes.
Then-
How long are the cuttings? What's the longest you take?
depend on the longest is about 3.5 meters. So it's
Woo!
all about how tall you want your tree.
Yes.
So and then I weld some iron, and some of them need irons. You see there are iron in the
Yeah,
in different
I see.
shapes.
So you weld the shapes yourself
Yes.
with iron. It's just like a 5 mil diameter iron bar.
Yeah, it's actually 8, but it
8
doesn't
mil.
matter.
Oh right, okay, 8mm diameter. Yes.
So the whole thing about what I do is that it's fixed on height. Okay.
Yes.
So nothing here grows any taller than you see it.
You have to clip them, obviously.
You can trim the top to anything
Yeah.
you like. Okay.
Yes.
But the stem will only thicken. It will never grow any taller. And
Right.
that's the beauty. So what you see is what you get.
Yeah. And I love this standard tree particularly. That is fantastic, isn't it? That's really
Yes,
nice.
That was a new one. It's first time shown in the UK.
Oh, what species of willow is it?
Or I use 5, 6 different ones.
Vitellina, do I see?
No. That grows a little too fast for what I do. I pick the willow on the leaves, basically.
Yes.
I want them to look beautiful, so you can get shiny, brick dark green leaves, or you could have more dull leaves, like the one you see on the umbrella there.
So I'd like to take that one home with me now, Heinrich.
Well, you can do that. I will just have to talk about that then.
Oh, well, I hope you've had an enjoyable experience. Have we been nice to you? Have we welcomed you and
have-
made you
yeah,
hospitable?
Indeed, I love England and love you guys.
oh,
You're
good.
so nice to us.
Yeah, we love the Danes.
So,
we love the Danes.
so
You're
yes.
great guys. And I didn't realise you were such horticulturalists, to be honest. This is really wacky. This is beautiful. This is something different.
Oh,
Chelsea really benefits from seeing
You
something
warm
like
my
this.
heart. Yes.
I'm sitting in this chair on this hot summer's day, but this chair is totally unique. It's the first one of its kind. It's made by Capital Garden Products, and it's actually made of reconstituted stone. And the reason it's so different is because it's heated. So you actually have a knob on the side, you turn it on, and in the winter you can put a sheepskin fur on it and be warm and toasty. Obviously, no need for that today, but it still looks pretty funky and modern, even on a summer's day. Now, Capital Garden Products, most of their containers are made of fiberglass. And what makes them exceptional is they come in all different finishes, all different shapes, and they are the most convincing fiberglass planters you can get. I love the terracotta ones, I love the verdigris ones, I love the sort of bronzy looking ones, which is a fairly new shape in front of me over there. And the good thing about these containers is if you want to make a water feature, obviously you can then fill them with water, put in a submersible pump and have a little fountain, and then you've got a really easy water feature. And they've got very dynamic modern shapes, they've got traditional shapes, and as I said, all different colours. They're going to fill the one behind me and make that into a water feature shortly, but they're not quite ready yet. But no, I think they're fabulous pots. I love these chairs. I could just see myself sitting in these on an autumnal day after a long walk or something. They're really good. Olivia, you started Horatio's Gardens charity. How long ago?
So 10 years this year.
10 years. And how many gardens
And
now?
we've just opened the 6th garden at the Welsh National Spinal Unit this week.
Ah, amazing. So you've had a busy year, no doubt.
It's been incredible.
As ever. But it must get busier every year because you aim to open how many gardens altogether?
So there's hopefully going to be 11, which is all the UK's spinal injury centres. So these are centres where people go if they've been paralysed and spend a long time in hospital. So having a garden in the heart of the spinal injury centre where people can get to really easily is so important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And amazing gardens they are too, I have to say. So you come to Chelsea to really just make people more aware of your charity.
Absolutely. We want people to know what Horatio's Garden does, that we build gardens but that we also run them. So the garden that you built, Horatio's Garden Oswestry, you stay involved. We visited it just a few weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's an evolving place, so it's a thriving garden where also things happen like garden therapy and arts and a creative programme, so that it really sort of enhances the well-being of patients, their families, their friends and the hospital staff too.
Yeah.
So being at Chelsea is a great place for us to be able to talk to people about what we do, hopefully encourage people to support us and join the movement, but also to sell our lovely products, which you can see here.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. Every time I come to one of your stands, there's a wider range. A new tray I see. I love these little vases of flowers, and these come from someone's wildflower meadow.
So Butter Wakefield, who's a fabulous garden designer, who's designed and planted up all the pots for us, and then even brought the wildflowers in from her wildflower meadow in Shepherd's Bush this morning. So isn't that wonderful? So everything is grown in the UK, The bees are loving it, and we hope it gives a little bit of the essence of Horatio's garden here.